Hey guys, here at my apartment with, wow, three YouTuber legends in the Lego gun builder community. I am Cole with Brick Replicas, here to my right.
I am Bryce with Brickbuilt Replicas.
My different username over here, and
I'm Nick Brick.
And together we join you here in Portland, Oregon to talk about some of the niceties and oddities of the Lego gun building community. So guys, how are we all doing today?
it's been pretty surreal, like you kind of said earlier. It's just, I mean, it's so cool getting to meet all the builders. It's almost like too much. I feel like I've learned quite a bit already without even really getting started into like everything. I mean, as far as like all the techniques and everything that people have been going through, like I'm learning all sorts of new stuff. Like, I mean,
Cross-pollination going on.
yeah,
With all of the creativity.
so many people who build just like outside of Lego guns too. It's really lovely to watch like their concepts and techniques. Sometimes they will make things that actually work more for like kind of our world than they realize, and just getting to see that is like really nice. It's a really cool thing to get to do.
And we're gonna hear that from like the people that don't build what we do. They'll still study our craft, and even if guns are not their thing, or like don't know the subject matter, they don't know about World War history or like video games or movies that we watch or any of that stuff, they can still learn something from what we do, just the same as we can learn from them.
Oh yeah.
Totally. There's just so much inspiration to go off of. And so now you guys are all here in town for Bricks Cascade, the Lego convention here in Portland. Highly recommend. So be sure to visit that every February to March when that comes around. And this is our first time really being back together since COVID has been a thing. So you guys, how has it been so far with being back in person? First time since 2019, since we really had a major con.
Yeah, I mean,
all three of us were at the same con. Our last con was
Downtown Toronto, right?
Yep, and all three of us were at that, and all three of us are this one. This is our first con back. It's kind of like bookends on this. We hope it's bookends and like a chapter one, but
And yeah, it's just amazing to get to see everyone. Been separated just for so long, and unfortunately, not a lot of people that we know in the Lego gun community actually did come out to Bricks Cascade. But maybe in the future, maybe we can get more out now that we have like more Lego gun builders kind of coming into the scenes. Maybe we can really start introducing more builds into these into all these conventions. Really, how many more conventions are there than just Cascades?
In terms of the Pacific Northwest?
Just in terms of where we can take our builds. You know, who's really willing to like take in something as, you know, pretty I don't know, brash, like a firearm, obviously.
yeah.
Yeah, so not every Lego convention does allow for that, as
Yeah.
we have all found out sometimes the hard way.
I haven't been to a convention like that yet. I avoid those, but
Well, and yeah, I don't want to throw shade. It does depend on the particular circumstances, sometimes the individual people, and sometimes the timing of particular things. So for those of you who may not know, you know, there was one convention here in the Pacific Northwest where several years ago I took some of my Lego guns in, and it was me and another guy, and we found out during the closing ceremony, it was announced no names were used, just our Lego guns were banned as an entire genre. It didn't matter whether we changed up the scale, the color of any of the particular elements. It was just like, no, you're not allowed to bring these anymore. There's a safety risk. People are afraid of this. We had an off-duty local police officer come in and say that if the lights had been any dimmer, he might have opened fire. Like, there was... And we get it. Like, our goal is fun and safety and community. Like, that's the point of these events. And sometimes some of those things aren't handled as smoothly as they could be. Nobody ever came and talked to me. It was just one of those situations that... But that being said, I am grateful for how well things have gone then and since. Like, it could be so much worse. People are safe. that particular event happened, and I went home. I'm like, okay, I could try building a few other things. I started building Lord of the Rings swords.
I was going to say too,
Yeah.
the cosplay has been bigger than ever apparently this year. Even at Bricks Cascade alone, the entire small table group that everybody's got, it's entirely full of some of the best builds that people are already commenting on. We've had plenty of crowds, come out and just take a look at that, and they're staring at all these builds for a while because these are things that they can directly kind of relate to. You can always have your scenery builds, but at the end of the day, something that actually could be usable or holdable or wearable even is something that people can definitely attach to a lot more, and you feel a lot more interaction there.
Totally. I think I can speak for all of us, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but our goal is to help instill and inspire more of these creative ways of clicking Lego bricks together. We love guns, say, because of how fun they are. Like, they're pieces of history. They're pieces of pop culture.
Mm-hmm.
We have gaming, you have all of these different things colliding together, and whereas other people love to build things on base plates, sprawling cities and castlescapes and stuff, like, that's all really cool. We love the hands-on, the physically embodied, sometimes wearable, sometimes always posable, creative potential of the, whether you want to call it the prop genre, the cosplay genre, the brick gun genre. Like, there are different...
We'll define it differently.
Yes.
The viewer define it differently.
Mm-hmm.
I guess, like, one of the things that I do is I don't think of myself as a gun builder, but others will call me that, and that's up to them. I define myself, other people define me, and it's the difference between reputation and character, You guys watch The Kingsman. But yeah, anyway, that's kind of the way I think about it. Like, anybody can, like, judge you for this differently. Like, they can assign a political leaning. I don't want to get into that too much, but, like, assign a political leaning or a thought process or morals or whatever it is. And at the end of the day, I'm just like, I don't know. I like video games and movies. This is just what I make. There's not much else to it.
For real, when we all started, this was all for fun, and sometimes just people kind of take that and just misinterpret it. It's good to at least, like, kind of get past that, like, negative aspect and just really show people the positive outlook to all this. Because I mean, guys, like, we're literally doing this as, like, careers. At least I am personally. This stuff is actually beneficial to people. I would literally recommend to anyone to actually maybe get into it and maybe even start working on their own designs. It doesn't have to be guns per se. You could really get into anything. I mean, I'm a weapons guy. I like my weapons. I can't help it. But, maybe someday I might just build a Lego burger just because I feel like it. And it's like, to anyone listening, if you ever kind of felt like you wanted to make something, or if you know something that hasn't been made yet, that's good enough inspiration right there. I would basically tell anybody that, really, yeah.
Yeah, it's absolutely positive. I mean, at the end of the day, I think what connects pretty much every single person in the world is a love for video games. We can all openly admit it, and everybody plays a video game. Whenever they're playing a first-person video game, they feel like they're the character, and that's exactly what we're doing with 90% of our lives. We actually feel like the character because what we're building is what they're using. So it's such a strong connection to not only the source material, but actually feeling like you're a part of that. And that's kind of what makes it a little bit more involved for us, rather than building kind of a top-down view of some sort of skyline or something like that, is you directly get to feel like you're a part of it.
That kind of made me think of one of my inspirations outside of Lego, and I think that'd be a cool thing to talk about is what our inspirations outside of Lego are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
One of mine, I was fortunate to meet him in 2020 at C2E2 in Chicago, is Adam Savage. Oh. And I like to think that he and I have very similar minds, except he's just more famous for doing it. But his idea of, like, what cosplay is, and it's, like, beyond just being a fan of the things that you like, but pretending to be that character and
like
all that kind of stuff.
And
he has his stance on what real firearms and what they mean, but he still collects all these props from movies and creates them himself. So I guess, like, I respect him for where he draws the line between what's real and what's fantasy. And And while I probably wouldn't draw the same lines that he does, like wouldn't be necessarily above doing a Lego real gun. It just like takes the right situation for me, the right inspiration. I respect the way that he handles nerd fandom as opposed to the real world.
I mean, it's why like Comic-Con is one of the biggest conventions ever, because everybody there dresses up. They always want to feel like they're characters too. We're doing exactly the same thing. It's just a matter of doing it with a different medium. While we're not necessarily using leather or cloth, we're using these tiny plastic bricks all behind us, but it's just a different way of conveying the same story at the end of the day.
Do you guys feel lucky that Lego became popular? Like it felt like there's a shift after the Lego movie that we got more.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Culturally, the acceptance has been.
Yeah, it actually became more like acceptable. It's like, you built that? That's cool. Back then, I think people
toy bricks.
I think people back then would be like, oh, so like you have like a 9 to 5, right? And it's just really changed now, and changed in like the most positive way ever. I just want to recommend anyone just to get into it. I don't know. This is like the literal greatest time to get into this hobby, just for anyone who hasn't done it already. I mean, it'd be nice. Yeah.
I think we are in, if not a golden age, then at least a heyday of the Lego fan community. The new types of elements that the Lego group is putting out. It seems like every few months, another.
It's starting to feel like every day.
It's starting to feel like every day. All the different licenses, all the different parts, all the very detail-oriented, very omnidirectional, connective snot elements that's not on top, all the brackets, all the different connections we're able to make both between parts and between each other. That just seems to be increasing from time to time, right?
And everything's just getting easier and easier to. It just feels awesome.
Like one of the things that we had talked about when we first showed up at this wonderful Lego utopia, I guess, that has sorted pieces. I'm jealous.
Hey man, you'll get there if you want to.
Does my want surpass my desire to work? But anyway. That's beside the point. We're talking about some of Cole's old builds that he still has built, and how he go back and redo certain parts of them, which all the different pieces that have come about, and of course your skills would have increased over the time.
I hope so.
They did.
They definitely did.
Thanks, guys.
Can't beat perfection, man. Sorry.
Hey, it's a direction. It's not somewhere you get to. So
I like that. That's good. Yeah.
All of our goals differ. I would say there's quite a bit of diversity. We're all gun builders. We're all prop builders. I think all of our stuff to some extent has been based off video gaming, based off of different parts of culture, and yet you have just within any given subject matter, any particular piece you're trying to replicate, you have aesthetics. You have durability. Is it going to stay together when you actually have the fun of holding it? And, space builders, they talk about swooshability as a factor of quality.
Swooshability? I've never heard of that.
Really?
I may have swung my sword and been like, oh, swooshability, that's cool.
Yeah,
same idea, though.
Yeah, space heads will talk about swooshing, and so there's durability, but then there's function, some guns, you can, you rack them, you shoot them, you do you wear them. All within that, every one of us has a unique blend of which of those factors
that's
we're
very true.
Aiming at.
Right?
There's a lot of versatility. I mean,
priority
some people,
level.
Yeah, exactly.
Design is the great compromise of I'm gonna have some of this and some of this.
Yes, that's so true. And kind of getting to see everyone's little special trick to their builds. It's I don't know, as a builder it's just really fun to see that. Maybe for other people they're just oh, it's too complicated, I don't even know what I'm looking at, but I really do love learning from other builders and seeing how they accomplish challenges. It's astounding.
The approach to each of these different things is so different and so interesting.
I want to kind of break down something so complex as our approach to individual things to something so simple and just go down the line. Let's say we're we have to come to a point of compromise, and you have to choose the form or the function. What do you choose? Go down the line. Starting with you, Bryce.
I'm absolutely a proponent of form. Yeah, I mean, if it's one or the other, it's going to be how it looks at the end of the day.
Same here. I would definitely, my model, if you will, is aesthetics first, durability second, function third. And you can't have function without the reinforced durability to actually hold it together. And just in terms of the form thing, I can make something look a lot more like the real thing than work like the real thing. There's just a bigger gap in terms of the function, at least where combustible firearm materials are concerned. For, better or for worse. It's like, that's the constraints we are working with within Lego. But how would you rank those?
I mean, man, considering my building style, I would try to say I try to be the jack of all trades, literally master of none. Like, I try to get the most out of every aspect: detail, function, and sturdiness, stability. I guess that's my ranking. So it would be aesthetic, function, then stability after that. And I try to get it everything in an equal proportion, just so everything feels like equalized, so that it feels like it actually does exist in its universe. Kind of like what I mean is like one part of the gun doesn't look just different from the other. It all looks like it was made by the same manufacturer, and that's big to me.
Consistent with its own world, essentially.
Yes. Yeah.
I love the expert generalist balance that you're striking here.
I'm trying. Man.
So it's just whatever works in this situation. My question doesn't mean anything, kind of thing. Like, form or function in one given situation is going to be dependent on what that situation is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd say most time it's form, but yeah.
Overall.
I guess, even though form is my go-to, function takes the longest.
Yeah, what is your, stance on function? Personally with you, would you, if your guns were kind of like Cole's here, where, none of the slides move, but it's aesthetically beautiful, could you do that? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, wow.
Did you just hear that, guys? I'm looking into that, guys. It might be something, if it's blocky enough, Glock. It couldn't.
Glocky enough?
Yeah, if it's glocky enough, if it's big enough, maybe that'll be a thing. But anyway. Oh,
that's dope. Yeah, I mean, would you push for more functions later on, or do you like the approach that you have always kept with?
I guess it depends on what I want to come out of it. So, there are some Lego guns I have made where function came first. And I can think of off the top of my head Halo 2 shotgun, which ejects shells that you load in.
Right.
Dope.
Well, yeah, that's built around a function, so that's where function comes first. And I designed and iterated until it worked every single time, that ejection mechanism. And as soon as I had that figured out, the rest of the build can be made.
We've all had that with the idea of some sort of function that starts the idea for a build where you want to do something.
Like a play feature, from a set.
I would even abstract it out further, if I may. I would call it from because this is design. This is for what it is as a building toy. This is a design process, and I think we're all talking about focal points. You're talking about the one thing, whether it's a visual thing or whether it's a moving, working thing, but the one thing that really makes a mock, that really you focus on as the key striking feature that's remarkable, that it's make or break. If you can get this thing right, everybody's ooh, you got that going on.
So true.
So that takeaway thing is going to be a different thing for every build. So
correct.
With the example of the Halo 2 shotgun, that's the pump action mechanism in a pretty okay looking.
Because what other models do that, or at least at the time that you made it, was that maybe that you'd never seen that before. And you were trying to accomplish that, pioneering a particular technique or feature, or that's quite that's fulfilling as an accomplishment.
It is so fulfilling. Yeah.
And everybody looks at that and goes, I'm inspired to do something else that's never been done before, or to remix it creatively, incorporate it somewhere else into a build. It's like keep building,
Take your idea and make it
building
better.
on these things.
Yeah, we probably re-innovate other people's ideas just without even realizing it, and I think that should really come in a neutral lighting. Like, it should just come as a, oh, thank you.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, imitation can be a sincere form of flattery. It's been said.
I do treat it like that, yeah.
Yeah, and that the community builds on itself. I mean, there are people that will literally give tutorials for one specific part, and that is it. That's the video, and you can use that to create what you want off of it as sort of a stepping stone for the whole process.
Yeah.
You would hope so, but like sometimes you have to explain that to other people.
Yeah, explaining tutorials, I'm going to say this on the podcast, explaining tutorials and doing tutorials is hard. I'm just going to say that. Like, it's really hard, and from like almost like a fast-paced situation, because most people would literally just hit you with a question, how do you build like this?
Right.
And it's like, you can't answer that.
Well, what layer are we going to explore that?
So that brings up the question that I would love to figure out from everybody is, we actually talked about this a little bit before, is where do you start when you think of a build conventionally?
that's a
Like,
great
I
where's
actually
the,
have an answer.
where's the
Fantastic
very
question.
first point?
Good luck getting an answer out of us, but great question.
I got one.
Wait, yeah, I have a definite answer too.
Right.
Here, should we do the left to right
Yeah,
again?
because I have always had like a top-down approach where I always look at the top of it and kind of work my way down, and it spreads out.
Do you
and
look at it
that's where
from
it
like the
builds.
first person view? Like, as you're
No,
looking it
actually from
down?
like the
Oh.
site all the way down, and it kind of just develops itself that way. I've done some front to back and stuff, but I find that scales it so weirdly. You have a better idea of where it's going from the top.
Oh, okay.
That makes sense.
What about you, man?
Yeah, I probably... And my build process has changed over the years. It used to be that I didn't have access to printers, large format printers, and as many different digital tools, because computing and software has changed so much in the last... I'm not going to date myself here. Let's just say I've been like playing with Legos for a while, and our tools that surround that.
He's not the oldest person on this panel.
No.
So I feel even better.
Yeah.
I may or may not have been around at that time.
Let's just say that I used to take a ruler and a calculator to everything. I would take a picture, an orthographic image, and I would measure every individual part of that and proportionally
Remember
scale
doing that too,
it.
yeah.
Right. And so now I have video projectors and large format printers, and you don't need any of those things, but they help in terms of, especially if we're building one-to-one scale. You can just put bricks on top of image, or with a projector, image on top of bricks, and see whether you're at the right size and the right angles and the right form. And so I'll start from reference, research, try to figure out, get my head around something. If I've never fired a particular gun in real life, assuming it's a real life gun, then I'll just try to watch videos, every single angle. How do I grasp it in my mind well enough to grasp it physically, three-dimensionally in brick form, and then just kind of free sculpt it from there, depending on what the focal point is. If it's a function, which I do try to get into some of my models, guys.
I wasn't knocking you, didn't
I know, no, not at all. Like, that's self-inflicted, right? If it doesn't have a function, that means that's because I've prioritized something else. And
Exactly,
I try to own that, and like for what it is. And so, yeah, we're always pushing the envelope of what's possible within a given set of constraints. And I guess for me, figuring out what those constraints even are as far as the subject matter, that's where I start first.
Dude, that's awesome. That's beautiful.
Thanks.
I was just I had this approach because when I was starting off building and like didn't have a computer, like literally had like nothing to reference, I can get a photo and like save it in my phone. That's like the best I could do. I used to just build grips, and grips were really good because you could watch someone else holding a gun and see how that grip kind of matches their hand. And I kind of did that. I just said, oh, this feels too big, this feels too small. I would make a grip that feels good, and I literally would scale the rest of the gun to that.
So you're almost opposite from the bottom up. For the
Yeah.
most part. Yeah.
And
Interesting.
that's what I did. I mean, I still kind of do it, but now I have like stud converters, and I use like that to like get all the accurate stuff. But just like to anyone who's like freeform building, because maybe you don't have all the fancy stuff like a lot of us do now. So like if you're really wanting to start off, I would recommend sizing your own hand to a grip. Because, I mean, even if it's, like, too small or too big, at least it's, like, formed to you. And that's a starting point, I think. I think that's, like, a good one for Lego gun building. Yeah. That's, like, that one
Which
thing.
is a very unique set of constraints
It's
in
a
itself.
little unique.
Yeah, if it works for you, it works for you. Like
Exactly.
I don't always build real guns. I build a lot from video games and all that. And sometimes you can find the dimensions of those guns in the universe, whether it's like based on an actual firearm, if it's in a movie, like say Alien, their pulse rifle is a Thompson and a Spas 12.
Yeah, or
You
Han
can-
Solo's blaster is a Mauser C96 Broomhand.
But-
It's like,
But where do you do that for, say, Titanfall or Halo? Like some people know
Yeah.
this,
Yeah.
but you can really base that upon you define the scale pretty much at that point, and that's kind of what I do. Even though there's dimensions out there for the Halo guns, like the assault rifle and all that, I'm still gonna scale that to my size. Just thinking like I'm not a Spartan carrying this. I'm just me, so I'll just scale it more appropriately. So I guess with my take with doing more fictional stuff, you get a bit more creative freedom with that.
that's part of the beauty, is it is what you make of it, and that's where the individuality and the expression of each of us starts to come through. There are so many different angles, and it's so colorful, all the different things you can do with Lego, and that's part of what keeps us interested in this build a toy, is how freeform it is, and yet how constrained we can, say, arbitrarily choose to be in any given project. How detailed or how functional or just what have you. It's very open, and that's we all start from different places, and we were having fun laughing together earlier about where we've all come from. Like, we've all evolved so much. Like, if you're just getting started in, say, gun building, like, you're not going to have all the pieces. You're not going to have all the tools and techniques. You're going to slap some bricks together, and that's not just okay. That's good. So we think that's the greatest thing ever. We may look perhaps back at some, like, I look back at my stuff, I'm like, I'm so glad I don't do it that way anymore. But I had to do it that way before in order to learn.
Good point.
In order to
Yes.
get to where we are now.
Yes.
Like, that is valuable. And I would say personally, like, where I've gone in my real life career outside of Lego has been hugely influenced by the toy. Like, this is both an expression, an output, but then it also does change. I don't know how deep we want to go into this, but I think Legos changes us too, in terms of how we think, how we approach things creatively. I think there's give and take there with Lego.
Yeah.
And you can learn so much from it and through it, and pour yourself into it, get a lot out of it, and then there's a community. We get to do this together because of it. Like, that's exciting.
Yeah, I'd love to touch on the where we come from part too, because I think something that's really interesting is, as obviously a younger person that's kind of sitting up here amongst a lot of really popular people.
Are you just calling us old?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm kind of getting there.
it was. I mean, to put it in
Time waits
perspective,
for no one. You will be this too.
You just got a head start on you, man.
yeah, I'm not at the DLC point yet.
Sorry, paved the way for you.
But I mean, exactly. The way was paved, but I also started in 2015, which for me, I got a very late start to the game, of course, being as old as I am. So I was about 15 years old, just kind of in the middle of high school, and I had seen, of course, the contemporaries, your Zatsunambes, your everybody else that may be sitting here, and I thought, why not give it a shot? So I literally copied someone else's build, and then I realized that was probably not good enough to be posted, so I created a miniature Nerf Jolt that I painted the Nerf logo on and filmed it with my iPad in one hand. And I remember recording on iMovie and just having to do like 15 takes over and over and over for the first shot because my voice was so shaky. Nobody was watching yet, and I was already so nervous, and there was so much pressure, but it was just a matter of, let's just get the content out there, let's get something going, let's have some fun with it. And then it evolved into this that I can have the pleasure of sitting up here today. So it's definitely a skyrocketing moment, definitely.
I played around with Windows Movie Maker, and when I first started off, that doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah,
It doesn't?
it is.
It really,
No,
they're not even making
It
it
doesn't.
anymore?
I mean, YouTube, thankfully, when I re-uploaded some of my older videos this last week, I'm thankful YouTube still recognizes the WMV format, but my computer could not play that file at all until I got it on YouTube. I could not rewatch it again.
I actually render all my videos in WMV, straight up.
Okay.
And I don't even have WMV. I just do it.
That's just like the file format.
It works on Windows. It works on other stuff. I guess that's why I've always kept with it. That's interesting.
I don't know what any of this means. I just
Video formats and stuff from Lego.
Did this export 4K? Okay, cool, perfect.
Do you just mess with Premiere?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's always a default settings. Like I just scroll down to like, okay, YouTube 4K 2160.
It looks like a video.
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, that's gonna be like a few gigs. All right.
Yeah.
Go
Let's
for
get
it.
the computer chewing on it.
Oh gosh, I can't believe shooting 4K for friggin' Legos.
That's the next big step. I still don't have a 4K camera.
I guess
Working on
that
it.
when we get to
Yeah.
my origins, we've talked about that. A lot of potential. But anyway, who wants to go next?
Yeah, let's see.
Talk about those origins on YouTube.
Origins, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Your origin story.
Your origin story on YouTube.
Yeah. Well,
You landed
mock
on Earth from
pages.
Krypton.
Mock pages doesn't exist anymore either. I think we're all sad about that. Those of us who remember mock pages. Yeah. Thank you, Sean Kenny, for that wonderful time that we did have, and because there was quite the community there, and so. Yeah, it started off actually. I'm gonna trace it back to my first Lego convention here in Portland that I attended. My family very kindly took me as a surprise to Brick Fest. At the time, that was both in Virginia. Forgive me if I'm getting the state wrong. I believe it originated on the East Coast. Then Steve Borelli brought the Portland version into town, and so I got to visit that con. My eyes just starry-eyed, and then when I got to attend a con for the first time, 2009 Brickfest, that was the last Brickfest, by the way, that got me excited. And so going way back, right after that con, I'm like, I love this whole feeling of community. What's online? Boom, mock pages, boom, Flickr, like a year later, so we're talking, late 2000s, early 10s. My builds just, as soon as I had other eyeballs looking at them and the critical feedback started coming in where people were helping me to see things differently and try this or try that, that just escalated my growth in terms of building. And never been the same since. That was really how it started, was mock pages and Flickr, getting my stuff out in front of other people, sharing that with other people and getting their feedback. And I would also credit Alan Bedford's original classic book, The Unofficial Lego Builder's Guide. Like, that is solid reading still is, for anybody wanting to improve their building.
Sounds like a good read. I haven't seen it.
Yeah. I have that.
I've heard of it.
I think it's good.
Jordan Schwartz's book, The Art and Design of Lego, is also one of my top favorites. Just bibliography suggestions here. If anybody wants to read about Lego rather than just building with Lego, like, I got some recommendations. Anyway, that's my story.
That's kind of cool. I'll get into my thing, but I kind of want to ask you, and maybe like everyone else, like, what made it guns? I think we all were introduced to Legos, but why guns?
Sure.
I think a lot of us said video games, and I will admit to COD 4, I loved it, and I'm like, man, maybe I should make a USP 45, and I did. It was so worth it. So we were all video games, but what about you? What inspired you to get into guns?
Yeah, that was a good question. It was in part video games. I think COD Modern Warfare, which was the fourth COD, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the first one I remember playing. So I'm gonna say the overall answer, and keep this brief, is my dad, because he introduced me to COD and he introduced me to guns. Because growing up, my dad was the one who taught me firearms safety and training, and he was a corrections deputy, like he was law enforcement. So there was that respect for the power, and the danger, and the right handling of what, if used well, is a good thing. Like, I think we can all agree that, guns are a good thing in of themselves. They're not inherently bad. I think that's not even being political. That's just being, we can choose to do good things and protect people with them.
Exactly,
And from
yeah.
where my dad was coming from with my particular upbringing, it was like, this is something that you are very careful with, you handle it well, but it's a neat thing. It's a cool thing used well. And so for me, like, my dad taught me that, instilled that value in me, and that's kind of what I hope to bring to other people with my Lego gun building, if
That
you
was
will,
beautiful.
if that makes sense.
I love that. That is awesome.
Yeah, how we all arrive at the same conclusion from different stories. I
Yeah.
mean, it's amazing. It can even be the same subject material, but there's such a different range of opinions and beliefs and startings on it. I mean, all ending up at the same place is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It almost feels exclusive at this point. Like, more and more people could literally get into this, but a lot of people just choose not to. And there's so much complexity to it all that even, like, trying to explain what I would find to be maybe a simple mechanism to someone would probably be, like, insane to even comprehend. I mean, when it comes to, like, Legos and functions, man, guns really will test you. I mean, as far as, like, any other building thing, unless you're building something huge with a lot of weight, like, guns will really I don't know, like, they kind of, like, discipline you in a sense.
It teaches you to make functions without a power source. So
Yeah.
it's a little bit of a different than, say, robotics and also
Or
like
those motorized sets.
or like GBC, the
Yeah.
Great Ball
Yeah, that's what I
Contraption,
was
where
gonna
it's
say.
like
Yeah.
where it's like that's coming off of like a single motor. This is like anything that's powered by your own hands or maybe rubber bands or springs.
I mean, and GBC, you're also not picking it up and throwing it all over the place and running around, you know,
It's
those kind of things. This is the test of everything.
It's a different
Yeah.
skill set, and it's as much mechanically complex. And like, while I probably can't do a great GBC module on my first try, can't go to a GBC person and make them make a gun and they'll nail everything about on their first try either. It's a completely different skill
But you
set that's very
practice that.
similar.
Yeah, different practices and all these things.
I would say that the GPCs are mechanical marvels because there's just this continuous motion of interconnected cleverness. And, oh man, every single step is different. I love what we do because it is more contained in terms of focal points, because it is, and also I love guns because in a way they're iconic. They are an embodiment, an emblem of different points in history and culture and video games, which we all love here. And yeah, you feel like you are replicating or simulating something that's really neat and fun and beneficial to other people. And so that's what we hope to bring with our hobby.
Yeah, and you know, a subtle thing, a lot of people don't even think about this, and this is even if you don't build guns, like anything. If you're willing to want to recreate something, anything in general, you're going to do probably a lot of history on it. You're going to end up learning something relatively new that you may even be able to teach other people. I almost feel like a historian in a sense just because of all the guns I've made. And
I love how your videos typically start out with that intro in terms of the historical context, and that history usually informs, you know, not always form over function. Form follows function, and function follows the needs, whether that be economical, societal, technological, what was even there at the time.
Yeah.
And all those different factors fed into the subject matter, which then feeds into what you're trying to make. And so a deeper respect for real life, where this even came from, definitely doesn't hurt in terms of informing how you go about trying to build it.
yeah, because I mean, I know we, for the most part, we'll build guns like for ourselves and we'll look at them and we'll try to get them so accurate. But the way I build, I want people to just be able to recognize what this thing is and just almost know the ins and outs just by even looking at it. Like even like subtle things, just such as oh, if you turn that knob, it'll adjust something. Just something that feels user friendly, and being able to build that is like, that's just really nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just thinking, like, you teach like history with what you make, and I don't get to do that with what I make. I just know a bunch
You
of
do pop culture references,
I know.
and I like that.
I know so much useless Halo lore because of all the research that goes into what I make.
It's useless, man. It's
Yeah, I want to learn
differently aimed.
Did you know the Covenant in Halo glass only one city in the United States, and that is Cleveland?
Oh, no.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that.
I'm writing this down.
It doesn't matter. It's made up. But yeah,
don't live in Cleveland 2552. Just saying.
Yeah, well,
hey, it's during the World Series
hey,
though.
you know, maybe
Baseball still.
2552 comes along, someone will find this video and, you know, be in Cleveland.
Oh,
This is your warning.
gosh.
Well,
Anyway,
Dude, talking about
That's
deep,
right.
will our builds be seen even past us when we go?
Stop.
When we're gone.
I'm
Will
done
that
with this
happen?
topic.
well, that is a fascinating rabbit hole we could go down to whatever extent, like the permanence of our builds. And there is something about weapons, I think, that is different than, say, minifigure scale scenery and vignettes. And because we're creating something, our subject matter itself is more timeless. There's something more long-lasting and permanent about it. We tend to keep, I think most of us tend to keep our builds up longer. Like, we don't take them apart as quickly unless we need the pieces right
Yeah.
away, which happens, especially as we build more of them. Like, as you get more prolific, like, you start, and you run out of display space, and all of that. I think there is something about a subject matter that is longer lasting that makes our builds more self-contained, more like we build knowing that these have to be on display for longer. We build knowing that we will have more people enjoy them from different angles and different contexts,
Yeah.
different shows. And a lot of us, if not all of us, do building instructions for our models. You don't see that with a lot of the base plate driven
Yeah.
models. People are not necessarily going to want to reproduce. People want to reproduce our reproductions of iconic, identifiable, instantly recognizable subject matters.
I think that's the difference, is that a minifigure scale build, they're amazing, and they could be something that you see on your feed and you're just blown away
So
by all the building
vibrant.
techniques. But
Yeah, the
these,
color,
like, all the builds that you have on display back there, they're real. That's why they leave probably such more
Or
of
they
a
look
lasting
real.
impact.
They look
Yeah,
real, which
they're-
is like catches the eye. Like people are like, "What?"
I think
Is it good?
you caught it the first time when you're like, we can actually interact with these things. We feel a part of these things. As a designer, we feel a part of these things. But even when the designer walks away from his own creation, other people can essentially kind of resonate all that same aspect, even without the designer being there. I think that is what Lego guns have going for them. Yeah.
I think what makes people want to have our stuff more is just the subject matter itself. Maybe some people will want it because of the artist that created it, and maybe some people just think it looks cool. But like some people would probably want Cole's 1911 because they have a 1911 and they
Yes.
love that firearm.
Right.
It-
Let
it-
people
maybe
have a
it's not that-
spaceship in the backyard.
And it's something Lego will never make 1911s.
They
So
won't. No.
it's their loss and our gain in a way.
I'm gonna just,
We can all say that because we're all probably not going to work for Lego. Like none of us are applying.
I don't even
actively
think
in
I
our
want
life.
to. So
I
yeah,
wanted to at some point.
Like we love the Lego group and we love
Of course.
the Lego product. And we love our ability to do what we want with it that other people seem to appreciate. And there is something just jaw-dropping at times to see a really neat reproduction of something that there's this. It's cool. And
We're kind of seeing that now with some of the recent Lego kits in the 18+ line.
Yes.
Though we're not seeing gun kits.
but we are seeing props.
We got Thor's hammer. We got
Luke's lightsaber.
Luke's
Luke
lightsaber.
Luke and Yoda's lightsabers, as well as other 1-to-1 scale props. We
Flower
see.
bouquets.
Yeah, we got Harry Potter. We got the replica of Hedwig the owl. The Nintendo Entertainment System with the full scale
man.
TV.
Oh yeah.
Oh man.
They're making stuff, and I can't help but think we kind of inspire a little bit of that.
think
Not
so.
necessarily the subject matter itself, but the way that we do some of these life-size building things. Because I'm building some of these sets, and I'm realizing this is exactly how I'd make it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is a little intentional.
There is a
Not that it's a bad thing.
Well,
Lego,
yeah,
keep doing what you do.
There's a yes.
I'll keep
yeah,
buying
please, please. There's a
Please
difference.
rip me off. I feel flattered.
There's a difference in interaction between something very beautiful and very detailed in terms of a layout, a sprawl, a diorama, where you look at it and you interact with it in terms of building it yourself, but it's not as hands-on after it's done. And this just, there's that physicality of the model where you design it, and it's like the Lego. And this is a two-way give or take thing with the medium that is the Lego brick. The Lego bricks, the toy becomes something that's not a toy. It more than other model genres say, this genre becomes and draws its strength from becoming something else for us. And that, I think that's a large part of our enjoyment is, well, we may not have that fully auto whatever it is, but we do after we've built it out of Lego, and that is something we can keep and hold on to and proudly display and share with our friends and family who appreciate that, and really go deep in and produce building instructions for us so other people can enjoy it and share that with their friends. So yeah,
That is definitely the biggest thing. Just because certain subject matters and everything are really not in the greatest of lights. We just really want to create just a super positive and as well inspirational aspect to kind of all this stuff. I would want anyone listening to just feel absolutely inspired, literally not afraid, because when I was hearing your story, it sounds like you were afraid of the other Lego gun tubers. Were you?
Absolutely, because I touched on this a little bit, but the way content is, it's even probably worse nowadays, is that everyone's established. Either their parents have funded their camera equipment and they have some whole studio,
or their Lego.
We didn't get to my origin yet. We
Oh,
still got to
yeah.
do that.
Oh,
but
shoot,
you
sorry.
already kind of touched upon what I wanted to get at.
Yeah,
If you want to take it up.
Okay, so
Well, I think we are going to start with you for the next question because you're at the end of this line.
Okay, all right.
should we continue the origins thing
Yes,
and then move?
yes,
all right,
totally.
so
I think we all want to know Nick Brick's
speaking of
origin.
parents supplying the camera equipment, I feel like my early YouTube days is squandered potential because I did not learn the equipment that I was so fortunate to have. So
What kind of stuff did you have?
So I'm trying to think back to like my early YouTube days. I started on YouTube in January 2012, even though I had my channel since June 2011, just uploading a Brickbuilt video. At that point, Kyle here was already he was already 6 months into his channel, and Zazi Nambis had been a year into his channel. So I started too late. Whoops.
Yeah. Oh,
But anyway,
Better late than never.
dude, now that
But-
I remember that now. Now that you're saying it. Oh
But-
my God.
But anyway,
The trip
yeah, I'd
down
already
memory
been.
lane.
I was established on mock pages. I started off mock pages in 2008. Started my Flickr in the end of 2009. The reason I did that was for Creations for Charity. They only took Flickr uploads,
Yep.
Oh,
so
okay.
that's why I started there. But eventually got to a point where I'm shooting pictures of all of my Lego gun models. I have these functions that go along with the aesthetics of the time. I thought that was great at the time, but I was taking pictures showing the function, so I'd shoot a picture with my finger on the trigger, shoot another picture with the trigger pulled, and I was thinking there's got to be a better way to do this.
If
So-
only I can compile these pictures, but shorten the length, and then maybe even extend them by a few dozen. I mean,
So that was the
What about 24 a second?
24. Why does that number matter?
29.97 a second. Sorry.
So the actual reason I started on YouTube was just so I can show the functions of my builds.
Yep.
And that's the only reason I started. Of course, that evolves over time. You change the branding and your idea for the channel over time. But that was the actual start. And when I look back at some of my videos where it would show still images instead of like panning shots, it would just show the still images I shot, and then just show the functions and conclude with different facts about the build. That has evolved into, now I film the build, even if it's just like static on a stand, and I talk about what I show as text at the end.
Yep.
So, same content, different presentation. But I was talking a bit about Squander Potential. My dad is a photographer, and when I started my YouTube channel, he's doing a lot of his photography in my home's basement. So I had like all this nice photo equipment for like lighting and a good clean white backdrop and a camera that filmed for at the time like 720p.
720 was good,
HD.
yeah.
That was really good for January 2012.
Yeah.
But I didn't know how to use any of this equipment. My shots looked awful. So it kind of shows like you can be handed all this professional equipment and not know what you're doing with it, or you can also have the skills to use like basic equipment and do amazing things with it. So because of that, I tried to improve my skills of filmmaking at the same time that I'm trying to improve my skills with Lego making.
And you're probably kicking yourself now because, oh wow, I could have done more with what I had then. But in a way, I think we can all, and those listening can draw encouragement from the fact that it's not about what you have, it's what you do with it. So you may have very, very little in terms of hardware and gear to capture what you're building. You may even have very little in terms of building materials. You may not have a bunch of brown. Like you may not have a bunch of one particular color that the thing you're making is in.
I was like, look at all this. If you don't have any of this, don't worry about
Your
it.
stuff
It
might not
matter.
be sorted like you work for
Yeah,
Lego.
like
This is an encouragement to those who are not there yet.
How about this? I didn't even have a tripod. I stole my sister's music stand that she used to use for her concerts, and I would slot my iPad onto that and just go.
Hey,
Oh, that's
that works.
perfect, yeah.
That totally works. So make the most of what you do have. And
course,
as you do that, you will start to accumulate more stuff.
yeah, it'll grow. You won't even realize it.
And you'll know what to do with it when you do get more of it. You'll have a greater appreciation for the capabilities of the Lego or the hardware that's capturing whatever it is you're doing with the Lego.
It's just nice.
It comes together. It's just a matter of time and practice. And we've all been at this for a while, and we just keep growing, and it keeps changing what we do with it and how we share it with each other.
And I think that is kind of big now. I mean, there was like a time when I was like first building. I think I was like first building all the Modern Warfare 2 guns, and I legit never shared any of them to YouTube. I built literally every single gun from that game. That's like a waste of time, I would say. So anyone just should share even their first build.
So
like really.
do you want to talk about some of the builds you've made that are undocumented?
Oh,
You
shoot.
start.
Yeah, I guess I started. So
Shoot, yeah, go for it.
my earliest Lego gun building I can remember was with Duplo pieces. So I had like my younger brother and sisters, like we kept our Duplo up to a certain point before we move it on to other family members, cousins, and yeah, what I would do with the Duplo pieces, because it's so fast to build with Duplo compared to Lego, I think it's like literally like 4 times as fast because of the size.
Literally, yeah.
Is that
Well, and the tolerances between the studs and the pieces, like, they do click together easier. They are
Yeah.
engineered to do that, comparatively speaking,
yeah.
per piece.
know an awful lot about Duplo?
This is
Interesting.
Duplo builders.
But anyway, so
Duplo
we
guns inbound.
Yes!
had a
That could be a collab.
we had a bin of Duplos, and what I would do is, because I was I loved Star Wars Battlefront at the time. I'm about 10 years old.
Dope game.
I would want to build the Clone Troopers rifles and blaster pistols, and I would just like make those with the Duplo pieces. So I just make the Duplo pieces as long as possible for the clone blaster, And then for the little blaster pistol, that was a little bit more accurate for Duplo.
Oh yeah.
I remember building those like upside down,
Yep.
so that the curved like 3x2 brick can be used for the underside part of like the buttstock or
So it's
something.
working with you
Yeah,
instead
but-
of against you.
So I was already trying to think creatively, even with Duplo
With Duplo.
pieces. That was my early stuff, and I remember my first person shoot. I guess technically, Battlefront had first person mode, but like,
It did, yeah.
Yeah.
but
None of
my
us
first,
used it though.
yeah, no one did.
Actually, I
but
kind of
you
liked
did?
it.
Okay.
Yeah.
but my
I
first
had a hard
first
time aiming.
It was
That's
the
beside
immersing.
point.
Yeah.
my first person shooter game was one of the 007 games. Played Agent
GoldenEye.
Under Fire. No, not even GoldenEye. It's
you
like the
got
one
Agent
after
Under-
that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I didn't play GoldenEye until recently.
Okay.
But like Agent Under Fire had like this. You started with like the PPK and you had like the Q hook and all these cool gadgets and
All
these
the
cool
cool
guns
stuff.
that I didn't realize were real guns or any of that kind of stuff. But because of like those games, me and my siblings would recreate some of those guns from the game with Lego and pretend to do multiplayer matches in real life. We didn't
Oh.
we didn't have any like Nerf guns or anything like that. We probably had like water pistols and all that kind of stuff, but that's what we would do because we didn't have Nerf guns or anything else. We would just build those so we can pretend to be 007 and play against each other in a multiplayer match.
Yep.
Dude, that's cool. You know, I
Like-
literally get comments saying like, "Dude, you should get your friends and grab all your Lego guns and have a Lego gun." That's literally a Lego gun warfare video.
That's how I started. That's why I made Lego guns in the first place, is to do that. And then like the Duplo ones because it would be fast. And then so the last undocumented build that I can think of before I started like taking pictures of everything that I can, I made a Needler from Halo. So yes, I've made a Needler before, but it's from 2006. It's like shortly after I started playing Halo. My dad picked up an old Xbox. We got Halo 1 and Halo 2. Yeah, and the Needler was the first gun from Halo I built. It used a bunch of the like 3x12 wedge pieces in sand blue and dark blue that came in Alpha Team sets, the ones that were all set in the snow area. I used that for the top shell and the bottom shell.
Is that Arctic Freeze? Is that what the name of
I
it was?
don't-
It was like 2002.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Like,
Arctic Thunder. I don't know. Something to
like
get the
something
kids
good.
into it.
It was
But for the needles, what I did for that is I took, I think it was like just black plates going across using hinges so that they would angle upward and spike upward. But the needle spikes themselves, red 1x plates. so like 1x4 or 1x6 plates in red were the needles.
dang, dang.
And this whole thing was like that big. It's about like 8 inches across, whereas the real thing would have been probably like 24. So it was not even close to real size. I had no idea how big it actually was in the game. I can't really tell in first person, but now I got a better idea of how that all works. But that was the last one that before I started taking pictures of what I build. And that first one was the Halo Magnum.
oh, that's epic.
So cool.
What about you? Undocumented builds.
Yeah. So when it came to undocumented builds, more or less.
Gun builds, I guess. But
No,
or
actually,
weapons.
get this. With the gun builds and all the weapon builds, I really did want to keep all that in front of the camera. Like, I always wanted people to see that. But I actually build a lot of stuff that's undocumented that really isn't gun related at
Yeah.
all. I've been getting into the NFT stuff, which I do count that as undocumented because I obviously like don't make videos on any of that. But I do, I guess, technically make pictures, but like no one here will ever see these pictures. These pictures are more or less for like the client. Like they're really like private, so that's more or less my undocumented work when it comes to builds. I build like all the NFTs like CryptoPunks, Bored Apes, and even various other things like little miniature dogs has been a big one. Just that's a lot of stuff that I don't document, like for like my YouTube channel and all that. So that's just like kind of like outside work.
I guess that's one thing too that a lot of people don't see public facing is there's a lot of builds that we do kind of for us.
Yeah.
They may even be just a one-off 2-hour, we'll put something together, sure, but there's a lot of things in the inner room that we're just doing for fun because it's the enjoyment of it.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I usually document everything. That's something I've learned from my engineering instructors in high school. Document everything, keep a portfolio, even if I don't post a photo. So, for example, I have a build that I had given to my partner of her Animal Crossing character, and I have the pictures of the front and back, but what is not documented as like another function of that build is her character held a gift inside, and only she and I know what's inside.
That's
so
cool.
That's fun. That's really neat. Yeah. My mom was very good at taking pictures of all my stuff from the earliest age, and I still have basically all of those photos of all my mocks going back to like age 4, whenever I started.
wow.
And I have all that on my computer chronologically documented in folder form, and I've tried to save as many of the different home video clips of all that stuff as possible.
Ooh.
So I have hundreds and hundreds and years of mocks. And so in terms of undocumented, because I'm comparatively so much newer, at least I haven't been doing nearly, of course, as many videos as any of you guys. I'm just starting to get into that with this YouTube channel and stuff. But yeah, so a lot of my stuff is undocumented in terms of the public eye. My website has more of my recent models, because I'll redo stuff and then I'll take the pictures of the old version off and just replace them with the new ones.
Oh, yeah.
Kind of thing, because it's more of a portfolio in terms of what I have recently done, what I can do, what I hope you will see I'm capable of doing in the future. In terms of stuff I have not, I have an embarrassing story because this is
Here we go.
Yeah.
Hot mic, let's
We
go.
have to have one of these.
This is where it gets real, guys. And I say this being the guy who, even back in my mock pages days, I wrote an article about what it means to be a purist. Like, that is a solid part of my brand, if you will. Is like, and so this is all the more embarrassing because of that. Is before I ever had Lego proper, and I was never a Duplo kid. Like, I have Duplo now, because I'm a Lego guy, and it's all things Lego, and so I have some of that on hand. But I wasn't given Duplo as a little guy. I was given Mega Block, the big jumbo Mega Block, by an aunt. A dear family member of mine gave me the Mega Block, and I remember
the ones where like the studs are like half the height of the brick.
Yes.
Oh,
Nice.
And so my first build I ever remember making was a sword out of that. That was my first weapon build, my first building project. This was pre-Lego, and so this is like age 3, age 4.
You made a sword at age 4?
Yeah.
Dude.
It fell apart because it was all column
I made an
stacking.
I made an X-ray
right?
with instructions at like age 8 or something. That's impressive.
So I'm ashamed to say Mega came before Lego, but I got rid of Mega as soon as I could.
Good call.
Right?
Good call.
Try to get rid of that clone bricks, but yeah, in terms of undocumented, that's about as far back as I can go, and about as undocumented as I can go. I have one surviving picture I'm ashamed to share with anybody of me building with Mega, and it wasn't the sword.
Pull it up here.
Now, if you want to see this picture, hit the like button down below and hit the
It's on
subscribe
screen right
button.
now.
Maybe I'll share it. Maybe I'll show it to these guys.
Okay.
We'll
yeah.
see.
Good thing we're asking for the like and subscribe 50 minutes in.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're still watching,
Hey, if you're still here, comment purple. You know, we gotta know like people are still listening.
right.
Or they jump to this point and
I
get
am
lucky.
looking at my retention curve on this video, guys, and if you're not still here, you're missing out.
You're missing out.
But-
We're dropping all the tips, all the tricks into Lego guns.
We got my different... We got Zazi Nambis on our panel.
We'll get Zotzi next episode, right?
Yeah, I really hope we will be able to do that. The timing will be better. I'll be able to ask sooner, and hopefully all the COVID and stuff will not keep our Canadian friends from joining us across the border.
Yes.
But yeah, what about you, Bryce? Undocumented builds that you're proud or not proud of sharing?
I mean, I'm the same way in the sense
We
that
have
my
two
mom
people
was
at Duplo, so
I'm not gonna go Duplo. I didn't even have that. I basically started getting Lego after I was 10, maybe. The only thing I remember is I had a build that was submitted to the old Lego Club magazines. It was my favorite build. It was called Bionicle Baseball. I had 3 Bionicles standing next to each other. One of them used their sword as a bat. And that was the build, and it got featured in the magazine, and I thought I was the most famous person in the world. Undocumented gun builds, there's only one. It's kind of when I mainly started. It was, of course, a Halo build, and it was a battle rifle, and it was about that long.
Oh.
It had click hinges using on the handle, so I showed my mom, and it all just fell on the floor. And that's why it's undocumented.
Yep. Did survive.
no chance to document it.
But it spurred off and kind of started the whole craze. So led to something at least, even though it was in pieces on the floor.
That's pretty epic.
See, right there. Literally, his build broke, but he never gave up. Like, right there. That's perfect.
You keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can also learn a lot from the way it breaks. You find out what
That's
parts are
actually-
sturdy and what parts aren't.
So true. You learn from your mistakes, yeah.
Yep.
Mistakes.
I remember seeing on different like Reddit threads and Discord servers talking about like they take a picture of their build shattered on the floor and them saying, "Okay, I give up. Time to move on to the next build." But there's a lot to learn from that mistake, and you can point it out in those photos. That section is sturdy. You got that nailed. Maybe work on how that connects to that section, and figure out how to make that work. You can give up, or you can get to work and solve some problems.
And
Problem solving.
that bridge building, the in between gap finding is really helpful. And now I keep thinking of Zotzi. I think we miss you, man.
Dude,
but
yeah.
I'm thinking of some of Zotzi's videos are. He's throwing his stuff on the ground to smash it, and then he's playing it in reverse. And I don't know if any of us are really
No, I
brave
don't
enough
How
to
he
do
put it
that.
together.
Yeah.
I always used to be so mind-boggled. How did he build
I
it
used
backwards?
to break my build because sometimes we'd have to break down our builds. I would break them for like Facebook.
Yeah.
I gave that to Facebook. I would just drop it on the floor. I kind of stopped doing that though.
I don't think any other YouTuber in general that I can think of does what Zotzi did. Yeah,
props, man.
That was his
That's
own.
props.
Yeah.
that's original.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
We really respect and appreciate that. And I speak for myself. I'm scared to do that with At least the reddish brown ones, because reddish brown
That's
is
not
not coming back.
The way I build with the structure and all that, you can't just like start peeling that apart with your thumbs. You need a brick separator.
Yeah.
I
So
must,
they are
I
what
must
they
be
are.
the only one here who uses a knife. I don't use a brick separator, and there's cuts all over the walls. But I kind of like the look of it.
Yeah.
You hate me right now, bro.
No, not at
Purism is
We'll talk about them when we stop filming.
the self-admitted clone brick user back in the day.
Ooh.
And
I don't know what to believe anymore.
Right. I mean, it may happen. I may start producing, or at least providing the files for decals for some of my creations.
that'd be
Depending on what it is, like that could be a thing. And because, yeah, but hey, we'll see.
Depending on if you like the video.
Blades, sharp edges.
Oh, yeah.
Sharp edges are helpful. We're prying pieces apart, especially pieces that have been in some of our older mocks that have been around for a long time and have had their own weight shifting the pieces around. As you hold these things, the studs settle differently and they're just harder to pry apart. So do what you need to do to get them apart and be able to reuse those precious pieces.
Oh, I can't even imagine one time I've ever separated a piece and I literally damaged it. I can't even think of a time. I'm pretty careful with it. I'm good with a knife, you could say.
Exactly. And yeah, palette knife.
Palette knives, butter knives.
I've had those recommended to me by very, very established builders, and I think there is a time and a situation that is appropriate for almost all of these techniques, these methods, these very unorthodox, non-Lego approved, unpurist, or at least questionable techniques.
Well, just like there's multiple ways to put things together, there's got to be multiple ways to take it apart.
Exactly. Nobody here has advocated dynamite yet, so I think we're good.
Only the
Well, now I'm
Christians
thinking
in
about
this
it.
family can judge me.
Yeah. So I guess let's start to wrap this up, guys. As sad as it is we should do this again.
We have to. There's literally too much information that we didn't even get through enough, honestly.
This is just a survey of different aspects of this genre, of this community, and it's really fun to have representatives of all these different elements of it here. So let's start with you again, Nick. What would be your favorite... I mean, where do you see yourself going with this gun building? Not that we limit ourselves to that, but where do you see yourself going with this in general, and what would be your favorite dream gun project?
So, I will probably always love video games, and especially Halo series. I hope so, because otherwise I might regret that. But, yeah, I'm just thinking, there's always going to be more video games coming out. There's going to be always more movies.
Yeah, I hope.
and if not, but also at the same time, we got so much that people are nostalgic for. There's always going to be subject matter for me to cover, and I will not possibly cover everything, but I will try. But I guess the focus I want to do going forward is to kind of divide and conquer that. So appeal to the nostalgic side, so go back to my the original trilogy of Halos, maybe old Doom games.
Ooh, yeah.
Movies from the 80s and the 90s, any of that kind of nostalgia, and appeal to that. But also look to the future and think about things that haven't been made yet. So I don't know when the next big game is going to come. I'm just thinking about in the past few years with different live service games that exist. We're suddenly getting Destiny expansions. We're suddenly getting Apex Legends is playable now, but you found out about this game existing 10 minutes ago. We got Halo as a live service game now with Halo Infinite, and that brought so many players into the player base. It's a little different now, but when it first started, Halo was big again, and I'm just thinking about, I don't know what the nerd fandom landscape's going to look like, but I want to be on top of it when it happens, as long as I'm into it.
Oh, definitely. That's really cool.
So that's kind of what I want to do with it. So with that, I don't necessarily have any ideas of what I want to do with the future of nerd fandom, but going to the nostalgic side, my dream gun build is the Brute Shot from Halo. That is my favorite gun in the entire series.
Good to know.
So
I'm gonna remember that.
it's
Write that down.
Write that down.
It feels so important.
You heard it here.
It feels so important to me. Like Halo is such a big part of my fandom as much as Lego is, and I have to at some point make my favorite gun in the game, no matter how hard it's going to be. So
it is your destiny.
So that's
all of this is leading here.
So that's what it's going to be. However, if and when that does happen, that's not the stopping point.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you build that dream gun, there's the next one.
Yep.
And maybe that will be even bigger.
That's awesome, man.
Do that, yeah.
But yeah, Brute Shot's the one I want to do. I want to be able to flip it up and do the blade thing.
Oh, that'd be so cool, dude.
Reload it, you open it up. I don't know if anyone notices reload animations like I do in video games, but I study those.
Well, you recreate them with your shorts now.
Yeah.
That too, yes.
Yeah.
But one of the things, when you open up the Brute Shot in Halo 2, you can just see these two sawtooth gears turning that kind of feed the grenades into the internal magazine.
Yeah.
I kind of want to do silly things like that, and no way will notice. You open it up and you just see these Lego saw blades. But that's what I want to do. That's Brute Shot.
That's really cool. That's just another level of Yeah.
Is that like an alien scaled one?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I've done the research on it. I have my files ready to go in case I ever want to touch on it. It's 6 feet long.
Okay.
And it's carried underhand, so I have to create a handle
Yeah.
that holds up however much a 6-foot gun's going to weigh.
Yeah.
Dang.
So you got that with the front handle, and you got the circular handle. And that still has to rotate.
Oh my god.
I'm looking forward to seeing that.
I hope it works.
What about you,
those-
Kyle?
Like just
Dream gun. Or
Dream
where do you
gun.
see this going?
I have big plans for the future. I know we were really getting into like we want people like we definitely want other people like yourself to create your own guns. Like, try to make as many guns as I can, just so anybody who's a fan of anything could just pick it up and use it. That my big plan is like I want to make all the guns, and I don't know if I'm ever gonna stop building. Realistic, I'm being serious. Like there was like a time where I wasn't building for like a month, and that just depressed me. Like it was not fun to not build. Like I feel like I need to build just to like really just I don't know, just keep going in general.
That's
like
a part of yourself.
it totally is. So like that's where I'm looking in the future. I'm just looking to expand everything, like making every single gun, not even just that, but also modular, making it so that they can accept different attachments from other guns too that could be compatible. Like to get into guns a little bit, like all the AK platforms that you see for the most part share the same furniture. You don't know that though because not a lot of people get into the gun world, but if you were to see it in Lego form, it's another way of teaching. So that's my biggest thing for the future. And I think my next project is going to be either the FMG-9, the folding machine gun, or a CZ Scorpion pistol carbine. So those are the next two, yeah.
I've actually been inspired by the way you do everything so modular. It can kind of tell a story in that way. You start with the base gun, you talk about everything about that, and then you're like, oh wait, there's more.
Yeah,
But
you can kind of see a general progression because to kind of explain guns a little bit, that is like gun culture a little bit. There was a time when we were only running iron sights, and then someone just said, oh, what if we put an LED dot on a thin pane of glass? And they were like, that's stupid. What are you talking about? And now we have EOTech. So innovation really matters, yeah. Mm-hmm. It's big.
I totally emulated that with when I did the car SMG from Titanfall 2. One of the things that I did to show that's a love letter for this game that I love playing is to make every single attachment that you can use in that game, plus one from Titanfall, plus one from Apex Legends.
Awesome.
And
awesome.
that was, I was just inspired by the way that you kind of evolve your gun throughout a video. I love that storytelling aspect, and I did my best to copy that.
Oh my god, thank you, dude.
I really mean it.
Aw.
Your style of video inspired me.
It's big. I mean, now, like, there's, like, so many attachments for everything, and video games kind of get into it where we can change the stats on certain things, and I think that's a really cool way to kind of get more of the video game people into that world, but, yeah, just, it can get so complex, and I don't want to ever be like, oh, I've made it. Yep, I'm there. No, I want to keep diving in as like, much as I can. That is, like, the ultimate goal.
Oh, man.
So your dream gun is all of them.
Yeah, maybe even an M1 Abrams tank out
So,
of Duplo.
so all of them, including the brute shot.
Coming soon to a theater, to a YouTube screen near you. I hope.
Maybe both of us.
Okay.
Anyway.
Yeah, dude, you ready to go? Like, what do you have planned for the future
Man,
for your channel?
Where do you see it?
yes. I am hoping to continue building out a presence on YouTube where, like these guys, I'm able to share more with you all. And I also want to figure out, and I think we all want to do this, and there's a whole bunch of collaboration opportunity and potential here in terms of tutorials and the how-to and the why. Partly, this is the why of what we've
Something
covered
that
a
I
lot.
don't feel like is discussed enough. But here we go.
Right. Wanting to delve into some of the more abstract, if you will, but nonetheless meaningful parts of how and why and what we do so that you guys can enjoy that not just by watching us, but jumping in yourselves and we can see this community grow, and we can see a bunch of new fresh blood, if you will, emerge as part of the gun genre, the prop, the replica genre of building. So that's part of the dream. So trying to figure out how to do this video stuff with these talented, inspiring guys, and also in terms of specific builds, because this all does go back to the actual Lego building. I am looking forward to. I'm continuing to update with new parts, new techniques, especially new takes on some of my older models. So a lot of you have asked me, because it is the oldest video on my channel and the one with the most views, a lot of you are asking me for instructions on my saw, my M249 light machine gun. I would like to bring that back, redo that, make it better, because right now it's disassembled. Sad but true. I want to bring that back, and I want to make it better than ever, and I want to do building instructions and another video showing more of how I did it. I would also love to do some of that with my M1 Garand. That's probably my oldest non-modified model. It's sitting behind us.
Yeah.
As we all look up into the corner of the
Yes.
We all
What is
have to,
over
like,
there?
look up.
Yeah.
You can't see it, but we can.
Yes. And by the time you see it again, it will be better anyway.
Oh.
But yeah, some models like that. I would love to try doing some bigger things. A sniper rifle is in the picture, and I'm not going to say which one yet, but you will enjoy it when you see it. And I don't know, is that bad that I didn't share specifically what it was?
No, you gotta keep us hyped too.
And I think you're pretty accurate. I think we're gonna like it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks. But yeah, that's me. What about you, bro?
I think the plans for the future, of course, are not only getting back into it, because as I'm a little bit behind on things in terms of the development, I went through college, so we've all done the dark ages. I'm just getting out of that and starting the full-time, ready to go and get back into things. So,
Welcome
of course,
back.
my plans for the
Welcome.
future is doing it in the first place. And now I'm coming back with, new equipment, with everything like that. So it's a matter of learning how to use these tools to really make quality content, because I have never written a script for any of my videos. I've never planned any of the shots. I just did it, and whatever worked, I threw it together, and it was cool. But I would love to plan some things out and make it consistent, have some branding going. I know, of course, I've got a purple branding
purple.
going on,
Dude,
which I
you
can
got
stick to that.
Purple going for you. Keep it.
But I would like to keep, some
think all
sort of
three of us,
consistency. Yeah.
I'm doing like a blue thing. I'm staying with the blue.
We're taking
I
the
got
colors
both.
now.
I got the red part of the color wheel.
Okay, he's
Sort of.
red. I'm blue.
Red and black, if that's the thing.
Purple and blue.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I mean that's the plans for the future, is to go into the future, and really get back into it and go for it, because it's been a while. But Dream Gun is tough. I would love to do anything purple, and of course that lends itself into a lot of potential Halo things. And Halo Reach has been one of the ones that stuck with me the most, not only emotionally because of how amazing the game was, but because of visually how pleasing some of the weapons were.
That assault rifle was the best looking, in my opinion, the best looking assault rifle. But that's just me.
Yeah, and I mean, on purple branding, I'd love to
That'd be
do
correct.
the focus rifle. It
Yeah.
shoots a giant lightsaber beam, so what's not to like about that? It's just a long purple spear that shoots giant light balls.
Okay,
so,
look, that gun had the ultimate glow up when it came to PC.
Yeah.
It went from I can't control this with a stick to one of the best guns in the game because you can use a mouse.
Yeah.
So
It's a
guess what?
sideways
Now
lightsaber, so it combines a lot of really cool worlds.
So
That's neat.
maybe when that game came out, that wouldn't be as cool, but now it is. Lucky you.
I'll take it if it's purple, so if anybody else has any recommendations on that, I'll take it.
And guys, if you join us, you can pick your own parts of the color wheel. And
There's one that's selected.
I don't know. Has anyone picked green yet? I'm not sure.
that's my favorite color, actually. I just haven't
Ooh.
applied it in any of my branding yet. So
Uh-oh. Maybe you could be the first.
Well, Christmas time you can do red and green.
there's that. There is that.
I know we're supposed to be ending this off, but man, I've always wanted to make a Christmas theme build, and I never get to do it. I never get to do it.
When
Man.
this gets uploaded on Christmas,
The candy cane blaster is coming soon.
Oh, it will be if Kyle does the editing.
And that was the
And that's
podcast.
it.
Thank you guys so much for joining along. That was
This has been a blast.
Let's do it again.
Indeed.
absolutely.
All right. Thanks again for watching. And subscribe to all these guys, please.
And for him, don't forget to like the video. I mean, it helps out. If you guys like this stuff, it'd be cool to see some more of it and jump into some things and help the channel.
Please like this so we can keep playing with our toys. Please, please.
I don't have enough.
We need more.
Don't make podcast number 2. All right, we'll call this a podcast, are we? Don't make roundtable number 2 have to rely on a sponsor like Squarespace.
ExpressVPN.
We will do our best. No sponsors for now.
Audible, because I can't reach. Make it so you only rely on YouTube revenue. Hit that like button.
Thank you guys so much for watching, and catch us in the next episode, hopefully soon. Take care, all.